Have you ever heard the expression, bounce is your friend? Today we're going to explain why this is true and how bounce can help to improve your short game. Welcome to this episode of Golf Talk with Dormy. It's a gorgeous day on the golf course and I'm standing here with our expert Alex Wrigley to discuss bounce. And first of all, Alex, what is bounce anyway?
You hear about it a lot on the TV, the bounce, the professionals using the bounce when they're hitting chip shots and pitch shots. The bounce is the angle that is created between the leading edge of the club and the lowest point on the sole. So that can be at the back edge of the sole or it can be in the middle of the sole. Basically, the higher the bounce, the more the leading edge is going to sit off the ground at address.
And why can this be helpful?
It can be helpful because we get so many different lies on the golf course. We have tight lies, sandy lies, wet lies. The ball sits in deep rough in really short fairways. And knowing which bounce is right for you and knowing how to use the bounce can be very beneficial for these shots.
When we're talking about bounce, we normally say low bounce, standard bounce, high bounce, but there are also numbers. Can you
Exactly.
let us know?
You're totally right with the three categories. The low bounce is going to be typically between 4 and 6 degrees. This is going to be for people who are playing on really firm, hard golf courses. Typically you think links courses, but inland courses can be like that, especially in the summer. It's going to suit someone who has more of a sweepy swing style, who doesn't take divots and doesn't dig down as much through the ball. Then we're going to move into the highest bounce category. The highest bounce category is over 10 degrees. Normally you see 12, even 14 degrees in some of the wedges. This is really suitable for people who hit down on the ball a lot. So think someone who has a slightly strong grip, likes to take a divot on pitch shots and chip shots. The back edge of that club is going to stop the club digging too much into the ground. You can still take your divot, but the club is not going to get lost in the strike. This is also suitable for a lot of places where we have soft fairways, parkland courses, where the grass can be a little bit longer. And then last of all, we've got the mid bounce. The mid bounce is my favorite. It's the most versatile of the two, normally between 8 and 10 degrees of bounce. You can really change this club by just changing the setup slightly and get all three of those bounce angles from that mid bounce club. So if you have the ability to change the bounce in your setup and in your swing style, this might be for you.
And then we also need to discuss the matter of fact that some wedges are 48 degrees loft, some wedges are 60.
Yeah.
Are you using the same bounce on a more lofted wedge?
Exactly, great question. I always like to have if I'm using a 3 wedge setup, let's say I have a 50, a 54 and a 58, I like the 50 to be almost like my pitching wedge. I want that to feel more like a normal iron. I want quite a standard bounce on that. And I don't want any strange grind style. I just want a nice standard sole. But then moving into the 54 and the 58, one of these clubs I think should have a slightly higher bounce if possible. That's going to help you in bunker shots where it's a little fluffy and there's a little more sand. It's going to help you on lies on the course that might be a bit wet or the ball sat up too much. And then normally I like the 60 or the 58 degree to have that mid bounce. You can even go into a low bounce if you feel really comfortable. That's going to provide the opportunity to hit high shots off tight lies, as well as, like I said, changing the setup slightly and accessing that bounce is very doable still on those clubs.
Perfect. A lot of information about bounce here, but you know what? Alex is not just a good talker, he can also hit good golf shots. So we'll see what you can do here.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We've got a lie here, this is quite a tight lie. I've actually I've put that in quite a nice lie, so I'm going to put it down into the ground a little more. This is sat down a little bit under kind of the level that we're standing on. And in this situation, this is where a low bounce wedge is going to be optimal. The low bounce wedge is going to allow me to get to the bottom of the ball still. And it might dig in slightly, but it kind of needs to get to the bottom of this lie. So we're going to give this a try, if I can find the Oh, 4 degrees. Okay.
4 degrees
yeah,
of bounce.
4 degrees, okay.
That's nothing really.
Yeah, nothing. I haven't used one of these in a while. For this shot as well, just so that I don't get any of the bounce activated, I'm just going to stand a little closer on this shot, and now I can see that the toe of the club and kind of this section of the club, it's really tight to the ground. And when it's tight to the ground, it's giving me confidence that I can actually get underneath the ball and make a good clean contact. Well, we'll give it a try, see if I can pull it off.
Was decent.
It was a lovely strike actually, a little too much spin. And off that tight lie, when you have this low bounce, it does generate quite a lot of spin because it's hitting a bit lower on the face. You can see it didn't actually dig too much, but it took a little bit of turf off, and that's what I needed for that shot.
But what would happen if you play that shot with a high bounce?
I mean, should we try it? Yeah, I mean, we can try it. Yeah, I dare. So we're going to use a 14 bounce now, and I'm going to try and use exactly the same technique, but already I can see that the leading edge it's off the ground, and I feel like I'm going to top it or thin it a little bit, but we can give it a try and we can see what happens. I'm not feeling very confident here. You know, it didn't feel very good through the ball. No. It come out very low on the face. It's had a lot of spin on it. That was very close to going over the green.
And from a more normal lie?
A more normal lie, this is where I really like the mid bounce from a normal lie. Here we have a fairway which has a little bit of sponge in it, so we've got a bit of give in the ground. It's going to be useful to have the back edge of the club gliding through the grass, and maybe with that 4 degree bounce we would get a little too much divot, a little too much dig, which might take off a little bit of distance control or even just confidence from me. So as I put this one down, I can see the leading edge is just sat off the ground slightly, but I kind of want that because I don't want this club to slide underneath the ball too much. I'm just going to use my same technique. And you see that one coming out because it's a nicer lie, a little bit higher, a little bit softer. I like this club from a normal lie like that.
And finally, when do you use the high bounce wedge?
I wouldn't necessarily use it here, but let's move to a different location and check out that option.
Yep.
So here we have a totally different lie here. We've got a bit of grass underneath the ball, but it's so easy for this club to dig into the ground now. Quite sandy soil. And this is where the high bounce wedge is going to come into its own. Keeping that leading edge off the surface is going to stop this club from digging in, where if I was using a low bounce wedge in this situation, we'd be struggling. So I'm going to put this down behind the ball. The leading edge still looks a little off the ground to me, but I know that in this situation, the club is going to dig into the ground naturally because it's so soft. So it's actually giving me a bit more confidence. So that one comes out with a lovely strike off that lie. And I don't think I could replicate that with the low bounce. The mid bounce maybe, but not as often as the high bounce. And you can see, it's still dug in the ground a little bit.
You want to try?
Yeah, go on. Which one? Low?
4.
Oh my God. Okay, so we get an awful lie. It feels like the leading edge is underground already here.
It will be soon.
Exactly, let's try, let's see what happens. Oh, you see all the sand come up. Now I made good contact, but look at the size of the divot difference. And it didn't feel good when I took my setup there, but I got lucky on that one.
So to wrap things up, what are the final words when it comes to bounce selection?
I mean, we've covered the 3 different bounces in a little bit of detail there. Final words, you're going to find a different bounce for you and your chipping style and your pitching style. You're going to find more information at the website about that if you want to dive into more detail, but hopefully this was informational enough for you and you can decide which one's correct for you.
Good. And it's not that complicated, right? No,
it's not actually. No. It's pretty much depending on how much down you hit and what type of ground contact you have. Very easy for you to see on a day-to-day basis.
Great. So thank you for watching. Go out and try some different wedge shots with different bounces and see how the ball reacts. And remember, bounce is your friend.